Hi, today we'll learn about two great figures in our nation's history, and we'll meet a unique kindergarten teacher in Haifa, so let's get started. Shalom and welcome to Israeli Salad. In 1998, the Knesset passed legislation to create a heritage center for the preservation of the works and memory of the late Israeli leader, Menachem Begin. The Menachem Begin Heritage Center opened Wednesday, June 16th, with an official state ceremony. Here's a visit to this important new tourist site. In Jerusalem, near the Old City, is the new Menachem Begin Heritage Center. The site overlooks the walls of the Old City of Jerusalem. The Menachem Begin Heritage Foundation was established by some of Begin's closest associates. The foundation seeks to foster the teachings and achievements of Menachem Begin, the leader, the individual, and the legacy.
I don't know of many people who had such a full life of activity as Menachem Begin, and it's endless. Now that we have the center here and it's operating, it's just endless.
Menachem Begin was the leader of the Irgun. The Irgun, or Etzel, the underground national military organization, fought for Jewish independence before the establishment of the State of Israel. Years later, Begin became Israel's sixth prime minister and served in that position between 1977 and 1982. Begin was the first Israeli to be granted a Nobel Peace Prize after he signed a peace agreement with Egypt. Menachem Begin was the one who initiated Project Renewal, Israel's major urban renewal project. The museum takes the visitors to the home of Menachem Begin, to the underground base of the Irgun, and to the great rallies Begin held in his days as leader of the Likud party. All this is done with the use of sound and light.
From every aspect of the audio, video aspect that we had, we used in this museum in order to show the youth in Israel, the coming generation, a leader that is not being moved by polls that you see every day in the newspaper, but a leader that has values, and he decided to go and to fulfill these values in order to help the people of Israel.
In fact, we started a few days ago with a visit by members of the Likud Knesset faction. Many of them are young people. They had read about those rallies, they had heard about them, they had never been part of them.
The museum contains the Begin archives, which include his documents, letters, speeches, as well as video and audio recordings of his appearances. You can also visit and actually enter the Begin family living room.
We didn't put any line. We want people to sit in his living room and to see how modest he was. This is from this living room. He went out from here, two-room apartment, to the apartment of the Prime Minister in Jerusalem.
In the video lecture rooms, videos are shown to visiting groups. In the Begin Museum, the most modern techniques are used to present Begin's life, works, and achievements. The museum teaches about Begin's love for the land and people of Israel and his belief in the Jewish people's right to settle the whole land of Israel. Especially in these days when it seems that international pressure affects major decisions in Israel, members of the Menachem Begin Heritage Foundation feel that Begin's way is something that must be taught to the next generations.
This is the only way to make sure that those values will be actually delivered to them and they will absorb those values.
When you have the inspiration of a great leader like Menachem Begin, you are able to face challenges, you're able to meet challenges, you're able to overcome difficulties once you have the goal ahead of you.
In one of their many conversations, Begin told Horowitz of the two principles he learned from Zionist leader Zev Jabotinsky.
Believe in your ideal and be ready to sacrifice for it. And two, don't bow to the mighty. Those were the guiding lines, and I saw him act according to that.
A story that represents Begin's attitude occurred in 1982, when there was a lot of anti-Israel propaganda regarding the war in Lebanon. Menachem Begin came to Washington to meet with President Reagan. Begin injured his leg earlier and was walking with a cane.
The Secretary of State Alexander Haig stepped forward and said, "Welcome, Mr. Prime Minister, how is the knee?" And quick as lightning came the reply, "Painful but unbent. Please remember, we Jews bend our knee only to the Almighty."
Please send your comments, ideas, and questions to the Israeli Salad email, yoni@israelnn.com.
We'll be learning of another great leader, but first let's meet Mendy Kaplan from Haifa. Mendy is basically surrounded by children 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The story of Mendy Kaplan from Haifa is not only unique because the fact that he's a male kindergarten teacher, but also because many of the children in his kindergarten are actually his children.
You see Asaf? This is Omer. See Omer? Say hello. And here, where's Amit? Amiti? There's Amit. And Yuval. Come here, Amit.
Mendy Kaplan, originally from New York, immigrated to Israel with his family when he was 5 years old. Before immigrating, many people told his parents not to come to Israel because they had 8 children. People were concerned that with that number of children, they would find the absorption process too difficult. They listened to all the suggestions, but at one point, Mendy's mother simply said, "If we don't go now, our children will not come with us."
Because even though they told them, the shlichim, that they won't be able to support, my mother believed, God help us, and they came, and thank God.
In the Israeli media, the Kaplan family were referred to as the optimists from America. At first, when Mendy thought of the idea of becoming a kindergarten teacher, his brother told him to take into account all the possible consequences of such a decision.
My brother said to me, "What, are you crazy? One of your kids, you're gonna, don't you pity your kids? One of them is going to say, what does your father do? He's going to say, he's a lawyer, a doctor. What is your kid going to say? A kindergarten teacher?"
Sometime later, his brother fell sick with the mumps, and Mendy came over to help his sister-in-law with the children. After seeing how he handled the children, Mendy's sister-in-law, who herself worked as a kindergarten teacher, decided that Mendy has what it takes to work in a kindergarten.
And she convinced me to substitute for her for 2 months to the end of the year. And the parents love me so much, and they convinced me to open my own gan the year after. You want to sing? You can sing. Stand up and sing. Let's sing.
Mendy then focused on studying early childhood education and became a licensed kindergarten teacher. He was the only male in the class. But Gan Mendy, Mendy's kindergarten in Haifa, is not the only kindergarten he works in. At home, there's a whole group of children waiting for him every day.
We're blessed with 4 sets of twins. Our oldest are 7.5.
We have 8 children. We're occupied all the time. There's lots of happiness. It's sometimes stressful. When we were engaged, my mother asked me if I was sure that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with a kindergarten teacher. I told her that there's nothing I'd want more. To be a kindergarten teacher, you have to have special character. You have to love children, be warm, and be a good educator. I found it charming. With plenty of energetic children at Gan Mendy and another action-packed group of kids at home, don't things get really tiring?
I don't know. When people ask me, is it hard? I say it's harder for people that don't have. We have twins that they are almost 6. They were triplets, but one of them died from a disease after a few months. And after what happened to us, after we lost our baby, we never say hard, and we feel a gift from God, to have 4 sets of twins in 5 years. This really has to be a blessing in God.
Mendy sees his kindergarten as much more than just a place where children have fun and let the parents rest or work, but rather it serves as a place of significant education. It also serves as a bridge between parts of the society. Mendy teaches the children who come from both observant and non-observant homes basic concepts of Judaism.
Like we are, for instance, we are not religious, but it's very important for us that he will be around people who believe in God and all the traditions.
Whoever leaves my gan, I promise you, won't hate religion. And that's even that if I get, I think I did a lot.
Mendy's dream is to open a kindergarten with his unique approach that will offer activity for both kindergarten children and senior citizens, the golden age.
And my dream is to have a gan that's the golden age come for a few hours a day. They have their class and they have music and all the sports that we have, and a few hours a day they're together. They have like grandparents for the kids.
The Hebrew word for kindergarten is gan. Gan in Hebrew also means a garden.
Yes, I get them as little flowers. I get them as little kids. You know, they come to me a year and a half, 2 years old, and they don't know, they hardly know how to talk, and I teach them everything from the beginning.
All through the town, all through the town, all through the town.
By the way, the kids you saw at the end had a lot to say about Mendy's great kindergarten, but when the cameras started rolling, they suddenly became shy.
You're watching Israeli Salad on Israel National TV.
Rabbi Kook was the first chief rabbi of the land of Israel and the founder of the national religious movement. Our crew joined one of the tours in which participants reenact the arrival of Rabbi Kook to the land of Israel. So let's take this opportunity to learn more about this important character. One of the many immigrants who arrived in Israel in the beginning of the last century was a unique figure who had a great influence on the Jewish population in Israel. Rabbi Avraham Yitzchak Cohen Kook reached the port of Jaffa on the 28th of the month of Iyar, 5664, 1904. Rav Kook's influence is still felt today, 100 years after his immigration to Israel. 100 years ago, Jaffa was considered the center of the new Jewish settlement in Israel. The immigrants, who were part of what is known as the Second Immigration, wanted to create a society that would be free from the Jewish tradition they knew back in exile. Rabbi Kook served as the chief rabbi of Jaffa in the midst of great disputes between the old settlers and the new ones, between the religious and the non-religious. Rabbi Kook settled in the Neve Tzedek neighborhood. His neighbors were the Zionist philosophers of those days. The fact that Rabbi Kook lived among these people reflected his belief that the origin of Zionism is holy, and that the religious community must be part of the Zionist enterprise. Rabbi Kook's doctrine drew objection from both sides. The old-timers in the religious camp believed in isolation and felt that the pioneers were going against Judaism and Jewish heritage. On the other side were the pioneers that distanced themselves from the laws of the Torah and were trying to create a new society. Rabbi Kook believed that it was possible to build a bridge between these two sides. Against all odds, Rabbi Kook succeeded in convincing other great rabbis to join him in a voyage through the Jewish communities in Israel. The goal of this voyage was to bring hearts and people close together. From all sides of the public, Rabbi Kook was admired. His warm personality that was clearly felt in the look of his eyes touched the hearts of whoever came face to face with this great man, the first chief rabbi of the land of Israel. Now let's go back to the topic of children. Tinokot shel Beit Rabban is a great concept in Judaism. That means children who learn Torah. Shalom to Rabbi David Sampson in Jerusalem.
Shalom Yoni, shalom to all of our viewers.
So what's the meaning of Tinokot shel Beit Rabban, a concept treated very seriously by our sages?
Yoni, when you talk about this concept, Tinokot shel Beit Rabban, you're talking about kids who are in the process of studying Torah that have not fully grown in their Torah stature. This is a concept which is unbelievable. And I'd like to say just one example of a halacha that asserts the importance of teaching these kids. We know that every Jew, all the time, always awaits the construction of the temple, and in all of his prayers and all of his deeds, whatever he does, wherever he goes, he's hoping that the temple will be rebuilt. Now there's an interesting law that if you have the capability of rebuilding the temple or teaching little kids Torah, Tinokot shel Beit Rabban, you are not allowed to stop teaching the kids in order to go build the temple. So when the Messiah comes and all of the Jewish people go en masse to the Temple Mount to rebuild the temple, there are going to be a few people who are going to stay behind teaching the little kids. Because the Torah sees the importance of teaching the next generation of budding Torah scholars so important that it's more important even than the construction of the temple itself.
Now, it's said that Hashem is especially fond of the prayers of children. What's the meaning of this statement?
You know, Yoni, they asked Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who is a revered Torah scholar and lived to an old age, and in the last years of his life, somebody asked him, what are you doing in worshiping God? What are you emphasizing in this stage of your life? And he said, I try, like a child who is just beginning to pray, to concentrate on all of the words of the prayer. And that a person who is able to adopt the simpleness of prayer that a child has and the tears that he sheds when he prays with all of his heart, it's not so simple to do this simple deed.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Samson.
The Weekly Insight is brought to you in cooperation with Machon Meir, the largest Zionist institute in Israel, bringing people closer to Judaism.
Coming up next week on Israeli Salad.
Shalom and mazel tov to Israeli Salad. Happy birthday.
Keep up the good work and mazel tov.
Keep up the good work. It's good to see that there's life in Israel, and appreciate all you're doing.
That's all for this week. Next week we'll be celebrating the 50th Israeli Salad. It'll be the 50th program that has been broadcast on our website, so be sure to join us next week. Until then, shalom from all of us at Israel National TV.